some fuchsia yesterday from Lindisfarne and I was picking Lily up, and sorry for shaking you, and I feel like that's a special place, Lindisfarne, and there was a big bush and I thought it's okay to take one from underneath, I thought to myself. So I smuggled it out of this small garden. It was called a gospel garden, and it had loads of beautiful flowers still. Maybe just with them being further south, it's still quite flowery down there. There's Maisie. And I just thought I'd just use watercolour this morning. And I don't really have huge plans here and no ideas around what I'm going to do. I guess I just feel like I want to do something. And I probably have some expectation because I need to make a few paintings for the RSW exhibition. There's an annual exhibition of the Watercolour Society here. And it's a good show, you want to put in your best work, kind of, you know, the way. So as I talk about that now, I'm kind of realising I've set myself up a bit here. Because I was thinking about that this morning. So I think I'm just going to put that whole idea on a shelf and forget about all of that and just remember why I paint in the first place, really, which I think is to soothe myself somehow in the morning, get myself gradually finding myself in the day, you know, that kind of way. And also I wanted to tap in with you because I feel like I've been toing and froing this week a bit, and I wanted to just settle and say hello. Hello! And I know I did a couple of these from a very similar angle, maybe on last year's course. And they were in, I think, oil over acrylic maybe is what I used for those. I shared those videos recently, and there's a whole playlist of fuchsia videos, which is probably a bit overwhelming. But anyway, I think those videos were on there. I suppose it's only overwhelming if you feel you have to watch them all and you don't. It's just to kind of have a jumping off platform. So I'm lifting some of the... So I washed the brush clean there because there's quite a contrast in the petals themselves in between one colour and another. There's really beautiful, vivid, bright light coming through some of the petals, and then others are quite dark. And of course the purple at the centre, particularly of this one, is really quite dark. I'm just trying to find the geometry and then, you know, the general areas that kind of matter. I put a bit of ultramarine blue in now, I think, in order to get the top of this dark one here. And above that it's kind of slightly greenish, but I just indicate it anyway. There's a few different sections, isn't there, to each one of these. And I think the ultramarine blue mixed into that red will give me a good colour for the purple. I've got my palette just sitting here, lodged under the butterfly screw actually in the easel. Sometimes that works for me. And it's kind of nice having it just under my chin here, so I don't have to travel far after I've seen the colour to then try and make it. So here's the purple, made from the alizarin crimson and the ultramarine blue. And I suppose if you did have purple straight from the tube, it might be could be a more satisfying one, I don't know. All I want really is for it to be clearly dark here. Oh, I'm starting to remember snippets of dreams. Do you ever do that? Start out in your day and then start to remember where you were overnight. Or even, and especially probably in the last hour of sleep, or the last half hour of sleep, or even when I wake up and drift back into sleep, that seems to be when I have most vivid dreams. But unless I sit down with a pen and paper, often I don't end up recalling them fully. So after this I could do that maybe. I love dreaming. I feel like it's really helpful then. It's like tailor-made subconscious stuff that goes on overnight that can be relevant, you know, to your life. I think it helps me anyway, especially since I've got a dream group that I go to, so and there's a bit of guidance, you know. on my own I kind of feel like, what do I do? Sometimes it always actually makes a lot of sense. And you can find the relevance in it when you chat in the group. Right, so I'm trying to find the petals that are different colours at the back there because of the light on them. And I think less is more, so I'm seeing if I can find those areas of red that are important and leave the rest. Darken that down, but of course I can always go back later and darken things down a bit more. And now I want to print some of these little flowery things that are sticking out. Some of them are quite dark. I think one of the things I love about these is that often there's one that's really surprisingly long. And I think that's a good one to capture. And maybe not to have it completely connected to the rest, because in this case especially it's really quite light. So I don't want the line to be very dominant there. The seedy things above it are quite dark, so I could touch some darks in there to help bridge the gap. And of course the background is quite dark behind the fuchsia, but I don't really want to make it about the background. So I'm doing my best to work with just the fuchsia, at least for the moment. And I'll bring in some green now, I think. So I'm using the sap green with the ultramarine blue. And I think I've got a colour that's not a bad one for this area here. The top of that fuchsia is quite green. I mean, these are really quite healthy looking fuchsia flowers, aren't they? And there's a little leaf here. Like the leaves seem to be in two halves, and one half is often curved away from the light, so it's in shadow, a little bit like this one is here. It sits directly above that flower, and part of it is in shadow. And one half, I would say, it's curling a bit away from the light. And then the other half, which doesn't read as a half because it's kind of been foreshortened, I suppose. I'm mixing some viridian green with lemon yellow, and I've made a colour that looks nothing like it, so I'm going back to the viridian green. It might just be viridian green on its own, let's see. There's just something quite bright that's happening there. And there too. I think I've been a bit too literal with that leaf, and I could blend with the one above it, and maybe with half closed eyes I could create a few leaf shapes together there. And have similar colours in them, and then later adjust the colour to work. It's like the morning light is a bit cool on the leaves, and they read a little bit like that to me, but not fully. They need to be a slightly murkier green, I think. And I might even go so far as to putting yellow ochre into them there. Yeah, it seems to have dulled out the green colour a little bit. And I think it might be no harm to just use line here and there rather than filling everything in. Print a line in. But I use that yellow ochre colour again back here for this one. It's kind of hiding behind. And also, I think this lovely arced stem could have a touch of the yellow ochre about it too. I mean, it's light, but it's not got the same kind of greenish light as the leaves, I don't think. That's that. And there's a touch of it coming out of this one as well, and then the stem of that one is coming back here. And to be honest, that is a bit more green, but I just wanted to place it in as I saw it. And now I might make up a colour to represent the branch. It's a kind of a burnt sienna colour almost. But but I had enough different colours on the palette that when I mix them together they seem to make burnt sienna-ish or crimson-y-ish kind of colour. There's just some little transparent reddish stems here too. And then there's another leaf extending up there. I think I could do a change in the colour of that one. This is the shadow side of it anyway. It's quite dark there. And it's got a kind of a shape that's more rounded at the top. There's some sort of dark shape here. I'm reminding myself of the thing that it doesn't have to, you don't have to think about it being a leaf as you're painting it. You can just consider what colours and shadows are happening here in this instance, and hopefully then a leaf will unfold on its own without you having to do that botanical illustration thing. But just considering where is the dark, what size is the dark, and what's the shape between the leaves. Like in this one here, how much space is there, and what's the shape of the space between this leaf and that one? Yeah. It's one of those instances where I'm half inclined to break out the inks and make the fluorescent ink capture the brightness for me. I'm going to see if I can find them, but I'll stop the video before doing that. I really tease them as a drawn, just to use ink as well as a drawn line, rather than the feeling of labour I have here, because holding my hand up even is kind of hard at the moment. I don't know why, I'm feeling a bit fatigued, I think, holding. Or maybe I'm just keeping my hand up for so long at this level of detail that I'm kind of annoying myself. Move around a little bit faster. Sometimes it's lovely to do the detail thing. I suppose as well it's because I'm trying to arc my arm around the palette. Oh yeah, that's better. Straight up and down is better. No. But I do think I'll turn off the video for a second and see if I can find my inks, because I can imagine them being satisfying in maybe a shortcut way. I always love a bit of a shortcut, because I think if you can capture the feeling quickly, or more in a more focused way, something that really just in one move makes it. There's something more potent, I think, about that. At least sometimes anyway. In this way of working with this subject, that's what I feel. I feel like there's something very significantly beautiful about the light on the petals of the fuchsia here, that no matter how long I take with the watercolour, I'm not going to really capture their full brightness. So that's what's leading me to feel like I want to have got an itch to go and find something brighter. Now what am I doing? So there's the top of that fuchsia, and there's a lovely bright green. The light has just started really shining on them to represent the top of that one. And I think maybe the last leaf there would be a handy one to put in, now that the light is catching that too. And it also kind of helps with the composition, I think, that it's kind of diagonally falling down. This is a nice image, I think, for a full painting. The jug seems to go really nicely, doesn't it, with the fuchsia. And the shape of the jug is nice, and there's a pattern on it, so feel free to use the image if you want to take a proper photo and send it to you. Actually, maybe in the winter months, it might be good to have a little stock of photographs. I used to frown on photos a little bit, if you could have the real thing, but after a while I started making very quiet paintings, you know, that we're sitting just looking at the picture and remembering, especially if you've taken it yourself, I guess, or were actually physically present when it was being taken, makes a difference. But even if not, still I think really something nice about sitting quietly in the winter months and conjuring up something of the spring, summer, and autumn on the canvas or board. Or I really liked using acrylic and then oil paint on top to describe sunflower paintings from little photos I had. And I did them on gesso boards. Let's see if I can find the videos for those actually. They were little miniatures, but I really enjoyed that. So I'm really going to do this myself, take a photo of these fuchsia myself and see about making them in the depths of winter, revisiting these lovely fuchsia. I was surprised that they were still so brightly blooming down in Lindisfarne, to be honest, because they're pretty well gone here. And also, if they are flowering, or even when they were flowering, they didn't have the same, the ones that I saw at least weren't as big and bright. They were a little bit like worse for wear, you know. And the Scottish climate, I suppose, wouldn't be as forgiving. It's only a couple of hours south, but far enough. And I think before I get the ink out, I'm going to just capture a couple of the darker petals in this one here. And they're kind of all flowing in together a little bit. Using the alizarin crimson and the cadmium red together to make a colour that I think will kind of capture something of their shape and colour, but not too detailed. Just letting these two blend in together. And something that we'll have to kind of pull something out of, I suppose. It's no harm sometimes, I think, to do that. To deliberately abstract a thing. Still looking at it like best I can, but trying not to let it be completely literal explanation of what I'm seeing. And sometimes I think a bush of fuchsia has got a abstract feeling to it. There's layers of these dancing reds, you know, and the leaves are going every which way. And there's a certain dishevelled kind of quality to them, you know. So I think there's something in the lost and found dance of watercolour that does explain them, maybe even a bit more than when you faithfully observe one for ages, like I kind of did here. So touches, dancing touches maybe, because they do seem to have a dancing feeling. These little flowers. And even maybe like a splash. Okay, and I'll put some green again, because I wanted to give that leaf more of a green hint. Here, I think it was this one. Yeah, because that was kind of a bit red there. And it's quite dark, that leaf. Putting some darker touches here and there to emphasize the drama of the light, because there's a serious dark to light contrast that feels important here. In the morning light, you know, there's something very appealing about that. About these contrasts. And then there's some sort of yellowish hint to the stem. Kind of yellowy, burnt sienna-ish. That's quite good. To this bright stem that's here. I want it to read as a clean arc rather than lots of bits, because then I want the angle to be clear there. And then at the bottom of it ends in kind of a dark reddish colour there. And then this also has a dark colour to the right hand side where the light isn't falling. So there's some touches there that maybe can help to emphasise the character of the flower again, even in the midst of the abstracted way it's been painted. It's amazing these like flashes really bright. Okay, if you bear with me actually, I'm not going to stop the video, I'll just have a quick look and see if I can find these inks. There's something here anyway. I don't know if they'll be the bright acrylics that I was looking for. Well, there is a purple. At least I could put a bit of purple in there. I'll just try a bit. Got it on a little bit of paper here. Gosh, it's gone very bright, isn't it? Purple ink. It's actually darker than that though. That's some ultramarine blue back in it. And maybe a touch of something back here. And even under this one. So that's purple. System 3. And System 3 acrylic ink, that's what that was. There's some kind of a red here now, I don't know if it's going to be bright enough. It's not the neon one, like. But it's quite a bright red. And if I've got a clean brush, really clean brush, it might just, I want to show you what it's like there. It might just be the thing that'll work to explain some of the brightness of the flowers. I wonder if I might use a stick with this ink. Let's see. I just try dropping on. And just pull it. Sometimes when you put it on with the brush, it can have the effect of diminishing its brightness. Whereas if it's like it's pulled along, something different happens. does feel a bit satisfying, at least, this effort at getting the syrupy brightness of the light on the flowers. Like, it feels like it's a good attempt, you know, to capture sunlight as I'm experiencing it here. I'm just going to dilute that red, because I think there are even little flashes of it, more dilute, that are extending as stems for these leaves. There's a kind of a pinkish hint to the stems, especially with the light coming through these transparent little stems coming up to the leaves. There's a hint of red about them. Yeah, and there too, a little bit. No, that's not there. This might seem a little bit outside the box now, but the phthalo turquoise is another lovely colour. I wonder if that might... Oh, what's this? It's phthalo green. I wonder, as a drawn line, if either of those would work. In the same way, maybe as I pulled it around there, I wonder if it might work to use one of those colours in the leaf area. Maybe just there, for example. And that possibly it might need to be pulled around as well or something. Just thinking where the light is falling, that it could have that hint of something more dramatic. And I think that comes with colour sometimes. Even if it doesn't really feel like it's the colour that's actually physically there, there's something about this phthalo turquoise that I think feels a bit fuchsia to me. So if it waters down a little, I'm pulling it around. And to kind of do your best too, I suppose, to not make it feel like it's a kind of a ploy, a kind of something that's contrived in any way or something. The two of them there now are like soldiers standing up. They're maybe too similar. I disperse it around a bit more. I'm going to try the phthalo green and see if that's any different over here in this one. Yeah, that's a bit more of a, well, it's obviously more green, isn't it? Surprise, surprise. That's the kind of thing, fuchsia, that you could just splash, I think. So, yeah, maybe just leave it at that. I mean, the shape of the jug could be drawn by something like that too, possibly. Just to have some indication of where these flowers are extending from. And then this comes back here and then extends out the belly of the jug where it meets that fuchsia again. And there's lovely shadows on the jug cast by the fuchsia, but I don't know if I want to go there. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't, because I think there's enough action there. I don't want to be kind of drawing attention from it. It does look to me as though there still might be room. Got some Payne's Grey here. Still might be room for something. This is Payne's Grey acrylic ink. And it looks almost blue to me, but what I was going to say is I think there might still be room for something a little bit more dramatically dark here and there in the leaves. Yeah, like that kind of shade. So I suppose since we've lightened the light with the and phthalo green and phthalo turquoise. It may be appropriate now to deepen the dark with some of the Payne's grey. Just like I say, here and there. There's a pretty big blob of it that I put on there now, so I'm going to lift off or spread it out a little bit, this one. And I guess too with the ink there's a possibility of creating that little bit of detail by lifting off or just moving it around with the point of a smaller brush. Because now that I'm looking at them, the leaves are darker than anything else really, aside from the background. The leaves are darker than anything else in the image where they are dark. Like there's a contrast of dark and light here that's fairly marked. And it might mean, I'm sorry, that you're not able to fully see what's going on even here. But I'm interested in making the darks a little bit darker in the leaves. And just a little bit more of a nod to the purple centres too. Using a touch of the purple acrylic ink along with the ultramarine blue. Maybe a touch of Payne's grey along here too, somewhere where that leaf extends into the jug. I mean that area, that branch here is really dark as well, so it's as dark as the parts of the leaf that I've just been explaining. And another little flash of a dream there. You kind of find as you go things that characterize the shape with the feeling of the fuchsia. And through trial and error, you know, you find things that say, okay, this is fuchsia, and other things that say, that's too much now, you know, or that's not quite enhancing, that isn't going to help. I think maybe I'll just use this splash of, not necessarily in blue coming in now, or something again that's a bit more free and watercolory again, because that Payne's grey is all getting a bit safe and, you know, there we are. Maybe just let it go that way for a while. And this is a bit of a wild card to do now, but sticking some of the turquoise ink in. And letting it run up the way maybe. Maybe a little flash of watered down red ink. And that red is just called, I think it's, yeah, pearl red. Pyrrolle. Okay. And that's it. That's what happened there. I'll share a photograph of it in the group as well. Okay. There is something always kind of light-hearted about painting fuchsia, I think. Something a little bit joyful in them, just because of their shape and they're like, hey. So it's been nice to start the day with this. It's 35 minutes long. Okay, I'll see you this evening, those of you who are on the flower painting course. And yeah, maybe have a go at painting fuchsia yourself. I'll share the photo with anyone who wants. So just get in touch in the comments below. Bye.